If I had entered that room 10 minutes earlier, my daughter would still be alive. I repeat that phrase every day because the rest of my life fits perfectly into those 10 minutes. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I am the mother who stayed, the mother who survived. And surviving sometimes is worse than dying. Today I am old. My hands tremble, my legs ache, and the house where I live creaks as if it were tired too. But in 1997, I still believed I had time. Time for everything. Time for later. Maybe you think so too. It was Christmas Eve. The house was full of people, voices, dishes, forced laughter. 3 months earlier, I had buried my husband, my daughter's father, and I was trying to pretend that life went on. Anna Paula was 15 years old. 15, that age when you think your children are too strong to break. And I thought that too. She came up to me with a pale face, bent over, holding her stomach. She said she was in pain, strong cramps. I didn't find it strange. I just wanted to fix it quickly because the house was full. I gave her the medicine. I told her it would pass. I took her to her bedroom, and surviving sometimes is worse than dying. Today I am old. My hands shake. My legs ache, and the house where I live creaks as if it too is tired. But in 1997, I still believed I had time. Time for everything. Time for later. Maybe you believe that too. I remember the way she looked at me before lying down. It wasn't fear. It was something else, as if she wanted to say something and didn't have the courage. I stroked her hair. I told her to rest. I said I'd come back later, and I went back to the kitchen. Have you ever noticed how the worst decisions of our lives feel small when we make them? I didn't abandon my daughter. I just thought she was safe inside her own home, inside her own bedroom. 2 hours later, something tightened in my chest. It wasn't a noise. It wasn't a scream. It was a wrong kind of silence. I walked down the hallway and opened the bedroom door. The bed was empty, the sheets untouched, as if no one had gotten up, as if no one had run, as if she had never been there. In that moment, my life ended, even though my body still walks around to this day. And if you think this could never happen to you, that's exactly what I thought. When I saw the empty bed, the first thing I thought was, she must be feeling better. That's how the mind tries to protect itself. It invents explanations so it doesn't have to face what's right in front of it. I called her name softly, then louder, then screaming. Nothing. I left the bedroom telling myself she must be in the living room with her aunts. But every step through the house felt like walking through a place that no longer belonged to me. Living room, nothing. Kitchen, nothing. Backyard, nothing. The conversations began to stop. Faces began to change. And I started to feel something that has never left me since that day. The certainty that something was terribly wrong. Too wrong to be fixed. Everyone started searching. We opened doors. We called out. We checked every corner of the house. I ran outside, knocked on gates, called neighbors by name, asked if they had seen my daughter. I remember seeing her best friend sitting on the sidewalk. My heart raced with hope. I asked almost without breathing. She said no, that she hadn't seen Anna Paula that day. That was the moment Christmas truly ended. We went back inside the house. Now no one spoke. They just walked until my niece, still just a child, said something that froze everything in place. She said she had seen Anna Paula go to the bathroom and then return to her bedroom. That was all. No noise, no cry for help, no argument. I ran back to the bedroom again. The window was locked from the inside, just as it had always been. There were no marks, no mess, no signs of escape. My daughter walked into that room and never came out again. Can you understand that? Because I spent years trying to. At that moment, I still believed the answer was outside the house, on the street, in someone else. I didn't yet know that the worst part was inside, under my roof, under my guilt. While everyone was screaming, crying, and searching, something was forgotten, hidden, waiting, and I would only realize it far too late. After my daughter disappeared, the house stopped being a home. It became a place that felt like it was watching me. The police arrived, relatives came and went. Everyone asked the same questions, and I answered on autopilot, as if I were watching my own life from the outside. At some point, when the house grew quieter, I went back to Anna Paula's room alone, not to look for clues, but because I needed to feel that she had still existed. I sat on her bed, ran my hand over her pillow, and that's when something inside me told me I hadn't looked closely enough. I bent down, looked under the bed. I saw her shoes, crumpled papers, normal things for a teenage girl. And then a board, old, worn, with letters and symbols I recognized instantly, even while pretending I didn't. In that moment, I knew there were things about my daughter I had chosen not to see. 3 months earlier, I had buried her father, my husband, and along with him, I buried my attention. Anna Paula changed after that. She became too quiet, too distant. She said she wanted to talk to her father, that she needed to say things she never had the chance to say. She asked me to take her to places I didn't believe in. I always said no, always no. I said it was nonsense, that it was a phase, that it would pass. And now that board was there, under the bed, hidden from me. How many nights did she stay alone in that room trying to speak to someone who had already left? How many times did she call out and I didn't hear? Have you ever ignored a request because you thought it was an exaggeration, because you were too tired, because you thought you'd deal with it later? So did I. That day, staring at that object, I understood something terrible. My daughter hadn't only been lost, she had been ignored, and that is a weight no amount of time can erase. The days turned into weeks, the weeks turned into months, and no one found my daughter. The police stopped coming as often. Relatives called less and less, and the world, not cruel as it is, moved on. But inside that house, time didn't move forward. It rotted. I kept sleeping in the same room, eating at the same table, washing the same glass she used. Everything was in its place, except her. Sometimes I thought I heard soft footsteps in the hallway. I stopped, held my breath. Nothing. Other times I smelled her perfume. The one I used to complain was too strong. And then the memory came. I complained about everything, except being distant. At night, the house began making strange sounds, cracking noises, doors creaking open on their own. Her bedroom, the one I kept closed, always felt different whenever I opened it. The bed unmade, the curtain out of place. I told myself it was just in my head, that it was longing, that it was guilt. But one night, something changed. I woke up with the clear feeling that I wasn't alone. I didn't see anyone. I didn't hear anything, but I felt it, a silent presence standing near the bedroom door, like someone waiting to be noticed, but without the courage to call out. My heart started racing. I called my daughter's name. No answer. That night I sat in the living room and cried like I hadn't even cried on the day she disappeared. Because in that moment I understood something else that was terrifying. If she had come back, maybe I wouldn't even know how to talk to her. Maybe the real punishment wasn't the loss. but the regret that comes too late. And it was that night that I made a decision that would change everything. A decision I should have made long before. The next morning I woke up different. I had no hope, no faith, but I had something new: exhaustion. Exhaustion from pretending I didn't see the signs. Exhaustion from keeping doors closed. Exhaustion from talking to silence as if it were normal. I slowly walked to my daughter's bedroom, the one I avoided like an open wound. I opened the door. The smell was still there, mixed with dust and time. I ran my hand along the wall, the way I used to when she was little and afraid to sleep alone. I remembered how many times I promised I would always be there, and how many times I failed. I sat on the edge of the bed, and for the first time since her disappearance, I spoke out loud. If you're here, if there's still any way, forgive me. Nothing happened, no sign, no answer, but something inside me broke. I began opening drawers that had been closed for years, boxes I never had the courage to touch, photos, old notebooks, notes I ignored when I still had time. That's when I found something I had never seen before, a small notebook hidden at the back of the closet. It wasn't a normal diary. There were no organized dates, no long texts, just loose sentences, interrupted thoughts, things a daughter writes when she doesn't know how to speak to her own mother. Each page felt like a request I never heard, and the more I read, the more I realized a truth that hurt more than the disappearance itself. My daughter hadn't vanished suddenly. She had been disappearing little by little right in front of me. And I didn't see it, or worse, I saw it but chose to ignore it. On the last page of the notebook, there was a sentence underlined heavily. Maybe it's easier to disappear than to try to be seen. My hands started to shake, because in that moment I understood the house wasn't empty. It was full of things left unsaid, and if I wanted any kind of answer, I would have to face the past I had spent my life avoiding, even if that meant discovering something I wasn't ready to accept. After reading that notebook, something wouldn't leave my mind. A small memory, one I had always treated as nothing. The day my daughter disappeared, I was at home. She didn't run out, she didn't scream, she didn't slam the door. She walked past me in silence. I remember thinking, I'll talk to her later. That later never came. I slowly stood up and went to the kitchen doorway. There was an old mark on the wall there, a line I had once painted over. It was her height, marked when she was a child. In that moment, I understood. My daughter didn't leave all at once. She drifted away, and I let her. Today, the house is still standing. The walls are the same. The furniture hasn't changed. But I have. I never found my daughter. No clues, no concrete answers, only silence, and the weight of everything I never said. I learned too late that love isn't just about being close. It's about listening. It's about noticing. It's about not postponing what truly matters. Sometimes when the late afternoon sun comes through the window, I feel as if she has just passed by. I no longer say later. I no longer close doors. I no longer ignore signs. Because if this story has any meaning, it's to remind us that some losses don't happen suddenly. They begin quietly, silently, inside our own homes. And when we finally realize it, it's already too late. Before you leave, I need to ask you something. What did this story awaken in you? Do you believe that some pain becomes trapped in places, or that a mother's love never disappears? Leave your comment below. Sometimes writing is the only way to ease what we feel. If you connect with real, quiet stories filled with meaning, subscribe to the channel. Here, every story is told with respect, emotion, and the care of someone who knows that some wounds are still open. And if you can, turn on notifications. That way you won't miss the next story.